Thomas the Tank Engine was puffing through the countryside, pulling heavy cargo. Thomas whistled hello to every engine he passed. But Thomas had arrived at the difficult bend, this time with freight cars. The driver applied the brakes, but it was too late. Poor Thomas had crashed into the ditch full of coal. "We'll soon get you back on the rail," said his driver. Soon, Edward had pulled Thomas to safety. "Thank you, Edward," whistled Thomas. "I must be on my way again." Thomas's driver soon switched to points, and Thomas was on his way again. Soon, Thomas had arrived at the level crossing by the station. Bertie the bus was waiting for him. "Hello, Thomas," said Bertie. "What has gone wrong here?" "Well," said Thomas, "I went too fast, and these silly, troublesome trucks pushed me." "So that has what happened," said Bertie. "I'm sorry to hear that, Thomas." Thomas wasn't sure why, so he would have to take the freight car safely to Knapford Station. Then it was time for Thomas to go. Later, when Thomas got to Knapford Station, he parked his freight cars safely into place. Gordon and Percy didn't know why to recognize this conversation at all. "So there is trouble on the line," said Thomas. "Trouble on the line," said Gordon. "What nonsense!" "Never mind about Thomas, Gordon," said Percy. "Thomas doesn't recognize about the difficult bend anymore." "Of course I do," said Thomas. "Donald and Douglas will pull the freight cars. I must go back to the shed for some quiet time." "So Thomas is silly," said Gordon. "I did not exactly know that. Last year, Henry overhauled me up the hill and I was going too fast." "Really?" said Percy. "You wished you were kind then." So Thomas left the freight cars and set off. A little bit later, Edward had to collect Thomas's freight cars. "So, should you take these to the docks?" Percy said to Edward. "Of course," said Edward. "Why wouldn't I?" And Edward puffed proudly away. That evening, Thomas came to the shed. He thought everything was quiet, but he was wrong. So Thomas puffed backwards and told the other engines what was happening. "Evening, Thomas," said James. "What's going on?" "Well, I didn't recognize the difficult bend again," said Thomas. "I had a long, heavy train because I couldn't have to catch up or anything." Then James laughed. "You've been lying to us, haven't you, Thomas?" "Oh," said Thomas. "I didn't recognize that." "So I hear that you and Gordon were crashing into each other on the branch line," teased James. "No, I wasn't," said Thomas. Percy felt a little sorry for Thomas. "I'm sorry I teased you," said Percy. "It's alright," said Thomas. "We're still good friends." Percy knew that Thomas was totally right. Nothing should have gone wrong.